Oops. Did I just ruin your entire future? That's what my sister whispered, right after she accidentally spilled red wine all over my thesis, in front of the entire honors committee. On the day I was defending my degree. No apology, no regret, just fake tears and a perfect sob story for the cameras. And for years, I had paid her tuition every single semester. But that day, something snapped in me. You want to erase me? Fine. I'll show you what happens when the quiet one finally fights back. If you've ever been the one who supported everyone else but got left out when it mattered most, comment 1. If you've been lucky to never feel that sting, comment 0. Because sometimes the real betrayal comes not from strangers, but from the family you thought would clap for you. I stepped into the grand hall with my thesis, 148 pages of calculations, sleepless nights, and unspoken sacrifices. For most, it was just another academic ceremony. For me, it was vindication. I had spent 4 years fixing air conditioners by day and writing code by night. This defense was everything. The rows of seats were filled, professors, alumni, students, and some family members. Celeste, of course, sat in the front row, flawless in her makeup, phone in hand. The night before, she had shown up at my apartment unexpectedly. "You're always the backbone of this family," she whispered as she hugged me tightly. I should have known better. Celeste never did anything without a reason. Her affection felt more like a rehearsed performance than a sisterly moment. Dr. Whitman gave me a nod as I stood before the projection screen. I launched into my presentation. Slide 1, then slide 2. I could feel the data flowing. I had rehearsed it hundreds of times. Then came the sound. Heels, Celeste's. She walked up confidently, holding a glass of red wine. Where did she even get that? This was a no-alcohol event. "To my brilliant sister," she announced, lifting the glass. I froze. I remember thinking, not now. Not here. Then she tripped. In slow motion, I watched crimson arc through the air. People gasped. A dozen pairs of eyes widened. The wine hit my printed thesis like a wound, saturating it, bleeding into every page. I stared at it. My name distorted by the stain, graphs blurring, equations ruined. I felt something twist in my stomach, like the floor had dropped. Celeste clutched her mouth. "Oh my God, I didn't mean to." The hall was silent except for whispers. Someone in the back had their phone up. I caught the red light. Someone was live streaming. A professor in the corner shook his head slowly. Genevieve, seated 3 rows back, mouthed, "She planned this." Dr. Whitman's voice finally cut through. "Ms. McAllister, do you wish to proceed?" My throat was tight. My hands shook. I couldn't feel my legs. Then I saw Genevieve. She gave me a sharp nod, half warning, half encouragement. I exhaled. "Yes, but I'll use the digital copy." I pulled my laptop out of my bag. My fingers trembled as I opened the file. The screen lit up. My slides returned to life. But my breathing hadn't steadied. My vision was tunneling. I clicked next. Slide 3, then slide 4. Behind me, I could see the projection glowing. The slide that had once been printed and ruined now floated digitally in front of them. I spoke. As I did, the room remained eerily quiet. No coughing, no paper rustling, just me and eyes. But halfway through, something shifted. I started seeing beyond the shame. My voice gained power. My cadence steadied. I looked up, not at Celeste, but at Dr. Whitman, then the audience. They weren't looking at a joke. They were watching someone survive. One professor leaned back, nodding slightly. Another underlined something in my printed handout with a focused gaze. I caught a whisper, "She's good." When I hit the final slide, I paused. "And that," I said, is why decentralized thermal mapping can revolutionize energy equity. Silence. Then, one clap. Then another. The applause built. Not explosive, but deliberate. Dr. Whitman stood. Impressive resilience. But I wasn't done watching the fallout. As the clapping faded, I noticed a staff member wiping down a sign near the front of the room. Most promising undergraduate nominee, Celeste McAllister. Some wine had splashed onto it too. The red stains hadn't dried yet. After the event, he gestured for me to follow him. I gathered my things. Every eye was on me. I walked out slowly, heart pounding like a drum muffled in velvet. In the hallway, I paused. The buzz of the overhead lights, the hum of nothing. Then footsteps. A voice. "Hey!" I turned. A senior from engineering, someone I barely knew, stood by the door. "I just wanted to say," he said, "if I had half your nerve today, I'd have told my advisor off years ago." I smiled, nodded once. "Thanks." Dr. Whitman unlocked his office and pulled out a thick envelope. "I've seen Sabotage before," he said. "Yours was public. Yet you stood tall." Inside was a nomination, doctoral fellowship, full funding. Later that night, I got home and dropped my bag by the door. My laptop pinged. Subject: URGENT, PhD nomination invitation. Reply within 48 hours. I sank into my chair, closed my eyes. A splash of wine didn't end my future. It just exposed the envy behind the glass. The night before Thanksgiving, my apartment was quiet. Too quiet. I had bought a pumpkin pie the week before. Out of habit, not hope. It still sat unopened on the counter. The plan was to drive down to the family house the next morning, just like every year. I had even washed the truck, checked the tire pressure. Then my phone rang. Mom. I smiled automatically, expecting the usual, "Don't forget to bring whipped cream" call. Instead, her voice was clipped. Strange. Cautious. "Sweetheart," she said, "we've decided to keep Thanksgiving small this year. Just immediate family." I blinked. I am immediate family. There was silence. Then, "Celeste's boyfriend is bringing his parents. It's important we make a good impression." I didn't answer. I just listened to the static filling the space between us. "She's worked so hard," Mom added quickly, "and they're very proper people." "And I fix HVAC," I said flatly. "I guess that makes me the embarrassment?" No, it's not that." I hung up. A few minutes later, a text buzzed in from Genevieve. "Just so you know, Celeste told your mom she didn't want you there. She said," and I quote, "I don't want them thinking we come from a working-class background." I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. I remembered a night 2 years ago when Celeste called me sobbing. She'd lost her campus housing and had nowhere to go. I had just finished a midnight repair job in Tacoma and was sleeping on the floor of a client's office. I barely had enough for gas, but I transferred $1,000 to her in under 5 minutes. She never said thank you. Not once. All those tuition checks, rent deposits, textbooks I never read but paid for, sacrifices I never asked her to repay. And she still didn't want me at the table. I sat down at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. The university portal loaded fast, faster than I expected. I clicked on the financial tab. Payment settings. I hovered. Years of direct deposits, emergency transfers, meal plan re-ups. It all started back at me, like a list of favors she never acknowledged. I clicked Remove Payment Method. A prompt flashed. "Are you sure? This will revoke all automatic financial responsibility for this student." I hit confirm. The screen refreshed. The slate was clean. 10 minutes later, my phone started buzzing. Celeste. I let it ring. She called again. Then again. Then my email chimed. University alert, payment failure notification. Dear Ms. McAllister, we were unable to process tuition for student Celeste McAllister. Payment method inactive. Balance due $21,500. The messages kept coming. Celeste, Mom, voicemail after voicemail. I stood, walked over to the pumpkin pie and slid it into the trash. Genevieve sent a meme. Snakes don't hiss until you stop feeding them. I texted Celeste back once, just one line. Respect isn't free, and neither is law school. Then I blocked her number. Later that evening, Mom called again. I let it go to voicemail twice before answering on the third. Her tone was soft, syrupy. I just wanted to say, maybe Celeste overreacted, but you cut her tuition like that. It could ruin everything she's worked for. I said nothing. You know how hard she's tried, Mom pressed. She's just under pressure. You don't want her to drop out, do you? I let the silence grow heavy, then finally answered, Funny. You all had no issue dropping me from Thanksgiving. Mom's voice tightened. Ava, this isn't the time to be petty. No, I said. It's the time to be fair. Then I hung up. Have you ever been the one who gave, and gave, only to be told you were being petty when you finally said no? If you've ever felt like the invisible support system no one thanked, leave a comment number 7 below. Now, let's see how it all started to fall apart. That night, I watched my phone light up again and again. Calls I never answered. The last voicemail from Celeste came in just after midnight. Her voice was shrill, shaking with desperation. You're seriously going to do this? You're going to ruin everything? You think you're so noble, but you just destroyed my life. I hope you're happy. Delete. I leaned back on the couch. For the first time in years, the silence around me felt peaceful. But I wasn't the only one being haunted by silence. 3 days later, Dorian sat across from Celeste at brunch. She picked at her food, eyes darting. He leaned forward. So, your tuition, your parents cover that, right? She nodded too quickly. Yeah, kind of. It's all handled. Because I called the financial office this morning, he said, voice low. Trying to surprise you by covering next semester. She froze. They said your payment method was removed, that you're past due. Celeste looked down at her plate. It's complicated. Is it? Dorian asked. Because it sounds like someone else was paying, and they stopped. He sat back, shaking his head. I trusted you. Outside the cafe window, snow had started to fall. Inside, Celeste reached for her water glass with a trembling hand. And somewhere across town, I sat alone with coffee, watching the light fade behind my window. I didn't need to hear the rest. The unraveling had already begun. She built her image on lies. I just let them breathe. It started the night before the family dinner. I wasn't there, of course, but I knew exactly what happened. Genevieve kept me updated, and honestly, I had already seen it coming. Celeste had always been careful to say as little about me as possible. When Dorian once asked her what I did for a living, I remember she smiled tight and replied, That's just family? She couldn't even say the word HVAC. God forbid her perfect image included a sister in a tool belt. But lies don't age well. That night, in his apartment glowing with warm Edison light and soft vinyl jazz, Dorian had asked a simple question. So your law school tuition? Your parents are covering it, right? Celeste lied. Yeah, mostly. It didn't sit right with him, so after she went to bed, he checked the student portal. Genevieve had told me he'd used it before for a scholarship form. This time, he looked under billing greater than sponsorship info. Sponsor, L. McAllister. My name. Plain as day. I'd seen my name in that field dozens of times before, but this time, knowing Dorian was staring at it too, it hit differently. There was no arguing with that line of text. No more pretending. The quiet truth I had carried for years had finally found a witness. Genevieve said he messaged her right after. "Has Ava been paying Celeste's tuition?" She replied with a single sentence. "All of it. Since freshman year." The next evening was supposed to be Celeste's big moment. She had spent weeks preparing for this dinner party, where her parents would finally meet Dorian's. Polished marble floors, jazz trio, artisan catering. Celeste wore pearl earrings and a speech-ready smile, but Dorian stood cold near the fireplace. Genevieve told me he didn't say anything until she offered him champagne. That's when he asked, "Why didn't you ever tell me Ava paid your way through law school?" Celeste frozen. "I didn't think it mattered." "What matters," he replied, voice flat, "is how you made sure it stayed hidden." He turned to a small group nearby, his cousin, 2 law school classmates, even his aunt. "She told everyone her parents paid her tuition," he said. "Truth is, her sister paid for everything." The ripple of silence spread fast. One guest whispered to another, "Wait, isn't her sister the HVAC one?" Dorian pulled up a screenshot on his phone. Genevieve sent me a copy later. It was my name under sponsor. Then, without another word, he walked out. Celeste chased after him, grabbing his arm at the door. "Dorian, please just listen." He stepped away. "I don't talk to liars." And then he was gone. Genevieve said Celeste just stood there, frozen, dozens of eyes on her. The music was still playing, but all she could hear was her own breath and the whispered echoes. Her sister pays the tuition? She lied to him. After that, she vanished into the restroom. According to Genevieve, it was only minutes before our mom got a desperate message. "He knows everything. Say something. Fix this. Tell him it was a misunderstanding or—" But there was no saving it. No salvaging the rot beneath the polish. That night, near midnight, someone pounded on my door. 3 heavy knocks. Then again. I didn't answer. Through the peephole, I saw her. Celeste, red-eyed and shaking, clutching her phone. I didn't open the door. I didn't even flinch. Instead, I picked up my own phone and opened our text history, scrolling back 3 years. Not a single thank you. Just lines like, "Rent covered? Got the transfer. Need extra books." No warmth, no gratitude. I was never a sister. Just an ATM in her contact list. She didn't speak. Neither did I. I just turned off the hallway light and let her stand there in the dark. Click. It wasn't revenge. It was released. The waiting room of McAllister Climate Control was humming with life. Clients sat sipping coffee beneath the glowing banner that read, "Service of the Year, Ava McAllister." The reception desk clicked with keystrokes, technicians moved efficiently between appointments, and the digital wallboard scrolled glowing customer reviews in electric blue. I was standing in my glass-walled office, discussing a system upgrade with Harry, my most trusted employee, when the front door slammed open. "You ruined my life!" Heads turned, a clipboard dropped, a coffee cup trembled on its saucer. Celeste stood at the threshold, her hair wild, eyes bloodshot, voice cracking from rage and desperation. She stormed forward, ignoring the receptionist's protest. Before stepping out, I glanced over my shoulder at the chrome-plated sign mounted above the front desk, McAllister Climate Control. My name in metal. My legacy in motion. For a moment, I remembered my first year in business, when a client told me, "She's just a girl in dirty overalls fixing vents." Now, I own the entire building. I didn't flinch. I calmly closed the folder in my hand and stepped into the main floor. "Celeste," I said evenly, "you need to leave." But Celeste wasn't listening. Her voice carried through the entire space. "You abandoned me. I had nothing left. You want everyone to think you're this big success?" She left her own sister to drown. A few customers exchanged looks. One subtly angled their phone toward the unfolding chaos. Celeste charged forward, jabbing her finger in my direction. In one smooth motion, Harry stepped between us. "Ma'am," he said, his voice low but firm. "I won't let you scream at her like this. Not here. Not ever." I took a breath and stepped forward. "I didn't abandon you. I stopped funding disrespect." Her face twisted. "You're lying. You just want to look good in front of all these strangers." "I don't need to look good," I replied. "I am good. And this—" I gestured calmly to the staff, the reviews, the clean white-blue logo on the back wall, was built without apology. Harry, still a wall between us, met my eye. I gave the smallest nod. "Ma'am," Harry repeated, "you're disrupting a business. You need to leave." "I'm her sister," Celeste screamed. Harry didn't blink. "And this is her business." Celeste's hands balled into fists. "No one even cares what she's done." A nearby client stood up. "We've heard enough." Another added, "You should be ashamed." Celeste spun, losing balance, her heel catching on the corner of the floor mat. She stumbled, barely catching herself. Two security guards, already called by the front desk, arrived and gently but firmly took her by the arms. As they guided her out, she shrieked, "She destroyed me!" A hush fell again. Then the door clicked shut. I turned to face my employees and the stunned clients. "This business," I said clearly, "was built from betrayal, and I protect it with truth." There was a pause. Then someone clapped. Then more. Within seconds, the entire room was filled with quiet, resolute applause. Have you ever had to choose between staying small to keep peace? Or standing tall and losing people who never respected you anyway? If you've ever protected your peace at the cost of approval, drop a comment number 9 below. Now, let's see what came after that final shutdown. They expected a meltdown. I delivered a shutdown. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. I turned toward the client still holding their phone mid-record. "Tag me," I said calmly. "Let the world see who she really is." Back in my office, I sat down and reopened the folder Harry had handed me. But my phone buzzed with a new notification. Email from Dr. Whitman. "Your PhD fellowship is confirmed. We'd like you to speak at commencement." Outside my glass walls, the mirrored surface reflected two versions of reality. One side, me, calm and composed. The other, a shadow fading into chaos. And I knew exactly which version I had chosen to become. As security walked Celeste through the glass hallway, she thrashed and screamed, "This isn't over! You hear me?" Her voice echoed like a distant siren. On the other side of the glass, my staff simply watched in silence, their faces unreadable. I remained seated, eyes steady. My laptop sat open, but I wasn't reading anymore. I was simply breathing. For the first time in a long time, the silence didn't hurt. I reached for my phone again, half out of habit. A dozen unread messages blinked at me from family names I used to answer without hesitation. Mom, Dad, Aunt Lila. I stared at the screen. Then I pressed "Mark all as read" and returned to my work. When the loan said denied, so did everyone else. Celeste always believed there'd be someone to catch her, a net, a lifeline. "There's always someone to save me," she used to say to her friends, usually after maxing out her card on something ridiculous. But that line had expired. I wasn't there to see it firsthand. I didn't need to be. Her unraveling left a digital trail, and Genevieve was more than willing to fill in the blanks. It started with the emergency scholarship form. Celeste had clicked submit at 3:02 a.m., hoping her sob story would pass muster. It didn't. The rejection email came 6 hours later. "We regret to inform you that your application has not been selected." She called our parents. Dad stammered something about bad timing and how they had their own debt. Mom said, "We assumed Ava would keep helping. You should have made peace." Celeste hung up before they finished the sentence. Next came the banks. 3 applications, 3 rejections. Poor credit. No cosigner. Outstanding private loans. The last denial letter arrived with the subject line, "Application closed. Ineligible risk." She tried calling me. I didn't answer. By the 4th attempt, my number flashed back. "User has blocked you." Genevieve told me she stared at her phone for 5 minutes straight. Not crying. Just frozen, like the signal itself had gone silent. There's a specific kind of silence that doesn't just fill the room, it fills the chest. It takes up space where dignity used to be. Then she tried Dorian again. From a different number. A burner app. Still nothing. Straight to voicemail. No callback, no text. She'd lost him too. Her apartment had become a mess. Plates in the sink, unopened mail stacking by the door, sticky wine glasses left on every surface. She barely ate. Just stared at the laptop until her eyes burned. A room full of things she once bragged about on Instagram now looked like artifacts from a forgotten shrine. I heard her laptop battery had died from being left open for hours. When she finally plugged it in, the screen blinked back to life, with a single window open. Final notice. Tuition overdue. She clicked log in. Pop-up after pop-up. Unenrolled due to non-payment. No refund available. Reapply next semester. The text blinked in red like a warning alarm. She clicked the window closed. Another opened. Then another. Each one a reminder. She'd built her identity on borrowed money, and the lenders were done lending. She tried one more Hail Mary, DM'd one of Dorian's friends. No reply. Instead, within minutes, her Instagram started shedding followers like dead weight. Unfollow after unfollow. It was as if everyone had been waiting for a reason. She picked up the phone again. This time, the voice on the other end was instantly irritated. "It's you again?" It was someone from the university's financial office. She begged for an extension. The line went quiet. Then came the final answer. "You've already received the maximum number of rejections." Click. Later that night, Genevieve texted me one last detail. Before going to bed, Celeste stood at her apartment mirror for 10 minutes, just staring. Then she took down her framed vision board, the one with cutouts that said, "Future lawyer, Harvard transfer, and power couple." She broke it in half, threw it into the trash, and crawled into bed wearing the same dress she wore to the dinner where Dorian left her. Entitlement has an expiration date. Hers just passed. A few days later, Genevieve sent me a screenshot. Campus newsletter headline, "Top PhD nominee to speak at honors commencement. Ava McAllister confirmed as keynote." I didn't even flinch. Let her read it. Let her see it on every hallway monitor. Let her feel what it's like to be in the back row, watching someone you erased take center stage. She wanted the spotlight. She just never imagined I'd be standing in it. They wrote me out of the story, so I took the stage. I stood behind the heavy velvet curtain, listening to the soft buzz of voices beyond it. The grand hall was full. Students in pressed robes, faculty in their academic regalia, and parents clutching programs like tickets to history. Somewhere out there was Celeste. Somewhere in the very back, I was told. I took a breath and adjusted the sleeves of my gown. My fingers brushed something crumpled in the inner pocket. I reached in and pulled out a torn scrap of paper, years old, almost faded. I had written it the night I barely passed my first engineering final. "One day, I'll own this stage." I smiled. And now, presenting our keynote from the Department of Applied Engineering and recipient of the Whitman Fellowship, Ava Lee McAllister. Applause rose. The curtain parted. As I stepped into the light, I felt every eye on me. I didn't blink. Let them look. I walked to the podium. The cameras tracked me. A red light blinked above the biggest one, streaming live to the entire university system. I adjusted the mic. "My name is Ava McAllister," I began. "I fix things. Machines, mostly. But sometimes, narratives." A quiet ripple of laughter. I let it settle before continuing. "I wasn't supposed to be here. Not according to some people. They said I was just a mechanic, that I didn't belong in these halls, these robes, these conversations." And I remembered, so clearly, the first time I was called into the university library to fix the HVAC. A professor leaned over to another and whispered, "She's just the HVAC girl." Like I wasn't meant to hear. Like it wasn't meant to matter. There were semesters where I worked all night and studied all day. There were times I paid bills I didn't owe, because someone had to. And there were days I wondered if showing up was enough. I scanned the crowd. The camera panned slowly across the audience. And there, just for a second, it found her. Celeste, sitting stiffly near the back wall, her hands clenched in her lap, face drawn and unreadable. I let the silence hang before I continued. But I kept showing up. Not for applause, not for recognition, but because knowledge changes you. It rewrites what others tried to erase. The faculty nodded. Dr. Whitman folded his hands, his face a perfect mix of pride and gravity. I finished with a small smile. "To those who doubted me, thank you. You gave me something to rise above. And to those who believed in me, sometimes silently, this moment is yours too." The last line caught in my throat just for a second. I stepped back from the mic. The applause was instant. Louder than I expected. Sustained. I looked out once more. Celeste was gone. Her seat was empty. Slipped out before the lights rose again. No one even noticed. Dr. Whitman approached me with the folder, gold seal embossed on thick parchment. "Congratulations, fellow McAllister," he said, eyes shining. "You've earned every step." The spotlight warmed my shoulders. The whole room stood. I smiled. Not for the cameras, just for me. After the ceremony, I walked alone past the rows of flowers and camera crews waiting for other families. A reporter called out, "That's the girl who gave the speech." Another one raised a mic. Flashbulbs fired. In the corner of my vision, I spotted someone in sunglasses standing near a pillar, trying not to be seen. Celeste. But no one noticed her. No one turned. The spotlight was no longer hers to chase. Later, as I stepped into the afternoon sun, a student ran up to me, barely older than 19. She was holding a bouquet of slightly wilted daisies. "You're why I stayed," she said. "Everyone told me to drop out. But your story, it gave me oxygen." I didn't know what to say, so I hugged her. "You don't know how much that means," I said. "But I know exactly how it feels." As she walked away, my phone buzzed. New message. "We saw your speech. Would love to talk about a national HVAC innovation grant. You've inspired us. Sometimes, being erased is just a clean slate in disguise." That night, I sat in my office. Quiet now. Lights low. I looked out across the city, windows blinking like coded messages in the dark. I pulled out the old voicemail from Celeste, the one I never listened to. For a moment, I hovered my thumb over play. Then I deleted it. In the months that followed my speech, everything changed, but not in a fairy tale way. It was quieter than that. I wasn't swarmed with overnight fame. Instead, I was finally left alone in the best way possible. Celeste never reached out again. The voicemails stopped. The posts stopped. The whispers about me slowly turned into questions about her. I expanded my HVAC company, opened a second branch. The scholarship committee I once struggled to impress now invited me to serve as a mentor. I even taught a guest seminar titled Systems, Sweat, and Self-Respect. At a networking event, a woman approached me with her teenage daughter. "You're the girl from the speech," she said. Her daughter added, "You made me want to build things." I didn't need headlines. I didn't need apologies. Because the real revenge was never rage, it was peace. It was seeing Celeste's name fade from conversations and mine printed in program brochures. It was opening my inbox and seeing new opportunities, not old guilt. And it was hearing someone say, "You inspire me," and knowing they meant me, not the version someone else edited. So if you're standing where I once stood, underestimated, erased, replaced, remember this: they can take the table from you, but you can always build your own. And mine? It's made of steel, bolted down, fireproof, just like me.